Today, we'll practice calculations to find the wavelength and the frequency of electromagnetic radiation. In a previous lesson, we learned the formula for speed of light as the product of wavelength times frequency, and the value for the speed of light is 3.0 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. For today's practice, you'll need a scientific calculator, paper, and pencil. So grab those things and we can get started. So now let's practice doing some calculations. In this question, it says, what is the wavelength of EMR that has a frequency of 60 hertz? The first thing we always do is make a givens list. What is given to us in the problem? And we're told that the frequency is 60 hertz. So I'm going to write that down. Remember, hertz also means waves per second, and I prefer to use that when I'm doing these calculations because it's going to help me cancel out my units as I go through the problem so that it's easier to figure out what the correct unit should be in my answer. I should also remember that the speed of light is always 3.0 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. In order to find wavelength, I would want to use the formula C equals wavelength times frequency. So now that I have the givens list and the formula side by side, I'm just going to take the numbers from the givens list, plug them into the formula where they belong. So speed of light, 3.0 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. And I want to include those units so that I'm going to be able to figure out what my units are at the end. And the speed of light then equals wavelength times the frequency, which is 60 waves per second. In order to get wavelength by itself on one side of the equal sign and all the other numbers on the opposite side, I would need to divide by 60 waves per second. I got to do that to both sides. Once I've set that up, I can see that I have seconds in the numerator and seconds in the denominator, and things that are in the numerator and the denominator can be canceled out. So I'm going to get rid of those seconds. They disappear. I'll use my calculator to solve 3.0 times 10 to the 8 divided by 60, and I should get an answer of 5 times 10 to the 6, and I'll see that the units I have left are meters over waves, or meter per wave, or I can just say 5 times 10 to the 6 meters, unit we use for wavelength. Now try to solve this problem. Remember to make a givens list before you start. Write your formula. Pause the video while you're working, and once you have an answer, start the video again. Welcome back. First thing we always do is make our givens list. So in this case, we're told that the wavelength is 4 times 10 to the negative 7 meters, and we should know that the speed of light is 3.0 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. The formula we would want to use is speed of light equals wavelength times frequency. We're going to take our numbers from our givens list and put them in the correct place in our formula. Remember to include the units as you put the numbers in to help us figure out the unit for our answer at the end. And in this case, we can see in order to get frequency by itself, we need to divide both sides by 4 times 10 to the negative 7 meters. So when we do that, we're going to notice that meters is in the numerator and the denominator. So we're going to cancel out that unit. That unit disappears and we're just left with our seconds there. We're going to put our numbers into our calculator, 3.0 times 10 to the 8 divided by 4 times 10 to the negative 7, and we come up with an answer of 7.5 times 10 to the 14 waves per second, or hertz. Now, when we look at our original numbers, we started with 4 times 10 to the negative 7. Remember, when we multiply and divide, our answer cannot have more significant figures than the least number in our calculation. So since 4 times 10 to the negative 7 only has 1 sig fig, our answer can only have 1 sig fig. So we're going to want to round 7.5 to 8. So our final answer should be 8 times 10 to the 14 hertz. Let's try one more problem. So remember, make your givens list, write your formula, pause the video while you do your calculations, and pick the video back up once you have an answer. So welcome back. Let's check your work. So we make a givens list of the information we're given, and we should know the speed of light. We're going to use the formula, and we're going to plug the numbers into the formula where they belong. In order to get wavelength by itself, we need to divide both sides by 3.44 times 10 to the 9th. And when we do that, we see that our answer is 8.72 times 10 to the negative 2 meters. Now, in this case, we are going to keep the 3 sig figs because the measurement we are using is the frequency, which is 3.44 times 10 to the 9, which has 3 sig figs. The number we have there for speed of light is a definition. It's not a measurement. So we don't look at the significant figures in the speed of light. We go back to the measurement that's given to us in the problem. And in this case, that measurement had 3 sig figs, so our answer will as well.